as I mentioned, we're going to start off with kind of an intro to produce safety. So that's kind of our first big topic. And like I said, I'll talk a little bit about COVID-19, and then Cal will be covering some of these other things listed there. So you can kind of get a sense of what we're going to be covering. So you can, you know, if you have questions about those topics, maybe you can kind of save them until we get to that section, or just so you know, kind of a lay of the land of what we're going to be covering today. So just a little background on coronavirus, because I know that, again, I mean, it's obviously in the news all the time. We're all very much affected by it. And so we thought we would just start with this so that we can talk about it right away, and hopefully then we can talk about other things as well. But so as you've probably heard, coronavirus is generally spread person to person through respiratory droplets. There's currently no evidence that COVID-19 is transmitted. It's transmitted through food or food packaging, and that's really important for produce growers to know, is that we have had no evidence whatsoever that there is transmitted through food or food packaging, and the research and data that we have shows that it's not likely to be able to be transmitted through food or food packaging, but there's always a possibility that it could happen. It may be possible to get COVID-19 by touching the surface or objects with virus on it, and then touching your nose, mouth, eyes. But this is not thought to be the main way that the virus spreads, but you know, that person-to-person contact is really the main way that the virus spreads. So that's why we're doing the social distancing. So how do we protect ourselves based on what we know about the virus? Avoiding close contact with others, and then washing our hands is really important. So you know, especially after you've been out in public, coughing, sneezing, you know, these are all, and then all the things that we always talk about in produce safety and food safety anyway. Washing our hands is so important. And how to wash your hands, just with soap and water. Make sure that you are washing your hands for at least 20 seconds. And just doing normal hand soap is fine. You don't have to use antibacterial hands. So this diagram just talks about proper hand washing. You know, we talk about this in food safety all the time. It's the same as we would say anytime, but just, you know, make sure that you're using soap, lathering for 20 seconds, rinsing, and then drying them is the key points. Hand sanitizer, this is only if soap and water are not readily available. So we always encourage to wash your hands first. And then hand sanitizer is kind of the second best option. So, you know, if you can wash your hands, wash your hands. But hand sanitizer is you know, just if that's not available. So just a few things that, you know, farmers and anyone should think about, but, you know, in the workplaces and so on, if anybody is sick, make sure that they are staying home. If you are sick, you know, if you're having coughing, fever, you know, please just stay home and get yourself better and not spread it to other people. You know, even on a farm, we even think about, you know, if you have deliveries coming in, just even using social distancing with the deliveries, you know, trying to stay 6 feet away if possible. And then, you know, the recommendation came out from the CDC, I think it was April 4th, 5th, something like that, of wearing a cloth face covering if social distancing is difficult. So for farmers, that might be if you're selling at a farmer's market, for example. That's a good time to wear a cloth face covering. So cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfection, you know, again, we always would recommend that you clean and sanitize, but then disinfection is something that's really the next step above that, like using a higher concentration of a product that's labeled for sanitizing. And I won't go into all the details on that today, but, you know, just cleaning and sanitation is always important. COVID-19 or not, but COVID-19 is really bringing that into higher focus. One thing I'll mention too that we often get questions about is, you know, if you are, you know, if your farm is selling produce, and if there is somebody that was tested positive for COVID-19 that was working in that facility, you do not have to have a recall of that product, because there's no evidence that the virus is transmitted through food or food packaging. So that's something to keep in mind too, that, you know, even though that it's an occupational health issue, it's not a food safety issue if somebody in the facility tests positive for COVID-19. You know, for a lot of farmers, for a lot of produce growers, You know, a lot of the produce growers that we work with do direct marketing, and direct marketing this year is obviously more challenging because of the social distancing. In Kansas and Missouri, and you know, other states would be a little bit different. I don't know exactly what's happening, but in Kansas and Missouri, farmers markets, U-Picks, and farm stands can still be open, but you always should check with the local farmers market and also your local public health authority to make sure that they're okay with you being open, because every local public health authority might have a little bit different view on enforcement of the stay-at-home orders, etc. So, and anyway, we can talk more about this offline if you have more questions, but it's always important to talk with your local public health authority and talk to them about the steps that you're taking to do things safely. And we do have a number of resources that can help you with that too. So we did a webinar on this topic to help farmers market vendors and so on COVID. The slides in the webinar are available. I'll show you the link for that in a minute, or I'll show you the website for that in a minute. We are also making available, MU Extension has some things on farmers markets available, and others have also done some good work on like online selling and so on. So there are some other resources available too. Just a few more slides on the COVID topic. We always would recommend that consumers wash their produce before handling food. So this is, would wash their produce before eating it. So this is true anytime, but there's been a lot of stuff on social media and in the media about people saying you should wash your produce with soap, that consumers should wash their produce with soap. We would not recommend that, because soap is not intended for food. You know, you use it on your dishes, but it's not intended for food. So we would just recommend that consumers wash their produce with water, clean running water. So, you know, as produce growers, you know, particularly if you're selling at a farmer's market, et cetera, you're interfacing with consumers, and the recommendation for consumers is just to wash their produce with water. There's no data that shows that fruit and vegetable washes are more effective. And again, soap, you know, if people could even get nausea or something from having soap on their produce. So this is our food safety and COVID website from K-State. The URL is on the top there, and I apologize that it's kind of in small font. I'll try to share it in the chat box later when I'm not talking, but we have a lot of different resources on there that just lots of different information related to COVID and food safety that might be of interest. So if there's any quick questions related to COVID, otherwise I'll turn it over to Cal to talk just more generally about produce safety.